Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Show Me How It's Done and to my YouTube channel, Lauren Scraplot. I hope that you are going to have a lot of fun with today's project, and if you haven't already, make sure to check out my inventory of free tutorials that I post every Tuesday so that you can have a whole slew of inspiration for your craft room. So today what I want to show you is just a really fun way to use your designer series paper as the accent for your card. So you don't need to add much to these cards once you start chopping up your DSP, and it's a great way for you to use those smaller pieces that you may kind of have sitting around thinking, oh, I don't know what to do with these scraps. So today I'm going to use the Artfully Layered set. So the bundle itself comes with a stamp set and a set of dies. Oops. And of course you can purchase these separately, but they do coordinate really nicely together with some of these big leaves, being able to cut out different pieces. Sorry, I have one already mounted. And you've got some nice borders to work with. If you're wondering what these kind of slashy pieces do, they actually just are embossing pieces, so they make a pattern in your background. And I can definitely show those to you another time. But this is a really fun bundle if you're somebody who loves the tropics or you know somebody else who does. It is unfortunately not going to be carrying over as a suite, so make sure to grab it this month before this paper disappears, because as you can see, this paper coordinates beautifully with all things tropical. So I have unfortunately used quite a bit of my pack, so there is a couple patterns here that you should be able to see, but I'm not, I don't have them anymore because I've used them up. But you get the gist of it. One side is all tropics, the other side is a nice set of patterns that would kind of complement what you're working with. And it's a really nice color scheme too. So if you'd like to follow along, I will provide you, the measurements for all the card pieces that you need. I'm just going to rest this in the top of our workspace so it's out of our way. But what I'm going to do is we're going to start with a piece of cardstock. So in my sample, I actually used Pool Party, but I thought it was maybe a little bit light. So you'll notice there's a color difference here. This is because on this card, I'm going to try Coastal Cabana, and we're just going to see which one we like better. They're both cut the same. So we're cutting this at 5.5 by 8.5 and putting a score mark at 4 1/4. So once you fold this piece in half, that's going to be your card base. I lost my bone folder. So sometimes I just use a block because it's got a nice little edge for me. This is going to be our card base. Now I'm going to work on the inside of my card just to get that finished and out of the way for you. So the first thing that you'll need is some sort of cardstock. So I wanted to use something that matched the designer paper on the front of my card, so I'm using Pale Papaya. This is going to be 4 by 5 1/4, and I'm putting that right on the inside of the card here. And at the same time, I'm also cutting myself a piece of basic white that measures 3 3/4 by 5. So this layering will give me a nice focal point plus something to work on a little bit. You can also replicate kind of what you've done on the outside with a scrap of paper on the inside of your card, and I'll show you a sample of that later, and I did include the measurements in our description if you're wanting to go check that out. I just figured I wouldn't for this one simply because I wanted to kind of make it a little bit simpler. And I was running out of scraps. All right, so your inside cardstock could really be any of those colors that coordinate with the paper. And if you're ever wondering what those might be, on the back of every designer series package, Stampin' Up! Actually nicely lists the colors that they've used in the package of paper. So if you're wondering what you should ever pair it with, you just look on the back. So here's the name, Artfully Composed 12 by 12. There's a whole list. So Bumblebee, Calypso Coral, Evening Evergreen, Just Jade, Mint Macaron, Old Olive, Pear Pear Pizazz, and Pale Papaya. So you can always reference this little cheat sheet to know what colors you might want to use with the designer series paper. So that goes for card bases, that goes for the ink colors. I find you can't really go wrong if you follow that chart. So there's my inside. I've got something nice to write on. I could always come back and maybe stamp myself a little leaf in the corner here or something, but this one has green on it right now. So I'd probably want like a blue or the Calypso Coral. That would look quite sharp. So now to the front of our card. I'm going to use a piece of basic white cardstock that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4, and I wanted a little bit of texture to it. So the embossing folder I grabbed was this Timeworn type, but of course any subtle embossing folder that you have would work. So if you have like the brick and mortar, it's got nice bricks in the back. You could have the painted texture one that has kind of like a painted wall look. If you have the subtles embossing folder, anything just very gentle in the background of your card, because you want your paper and your embellishments here to kind of be the focus. But if you have any of those other things, it's kind of just nice to bring this to life a little bit. So now it's getting very odd with lighting here. So let me see if that would help you at all. I don't think so. I don't think there's much of a difference if I did that. Yeah, sorry. The sun is just deciding to play coy today. Oh well. Okay, so here is my card background. Also, if you're watching, feel free to say hi. I'd love to see where you're tuning in from. Just let me know. It's always fun to check that out. And if you're watching the replay, you can also say hello when you do that too. Okay, so here's our background. Now we're going to add our first scrap of designer series paper. So I've just chosen one in the Pale Papaya because, like I said, I wanted to match the inside of the card. You could grab the opposite side if you wanted to. So this little piece measures 1 inch wide by 4 inches tall, and we're going to attach that with either some double-sided tape, some glue, or some steel, whatever your preference is. Just some sort of flat adhesive. Okay. Now these guys are going to go on the left-hand side of your card. Of course, you could decide to do the complete opposite and make the focus on the right. That would give you a really unique take on this card too. Okay, so now sometimes I notice there's quite a jump between my DSP, so designer series paper, and my white cardstock. So what I like to do is I just bring in any sort of foil to just kind of buffer a little bit. So I've just chosen the bright gold foil because I thought it looked really nice with this pattern. You could grab copper, you could grab silver. We have really beautiful black or metallics. So whatever little scrap you would like to bring in, it's about 1/4 inch wide by 4 inches tall, and it just really gives you a nice divide between your pattern and your solid color. Okay, so here's where we're at the moment. Now we need some more designer paper. So I've cut 2 different patterns at 3 by 3 each. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of flip around and see which ones I want to play with. I really liked this kind of solid evening evergreen look in the background. I thought it made for quite a nice kind of base. It had some pattern, but it wasn't overwhelming. If I was to kind of put 2 of these very tropical pieces together, you can see, actually this one looks quite nice, but sometimes they can kind of clash with each other. But actually in this case, I think these kind of complement each other quite nicely. So you can do either way. You can have this flipped over, you could have the green showing. It's totally up to you. Whatever you decide, it's your choice. So when you're ready, we're gonna just kind of eyeball what it would look like if you were to offset these. And then when you're happy, we're just gonna put a little bit of adhesive in the middle of your bottom square. And that will connect your 2 pieces together. Unlike when we usually layer things, we're not putting adhesive on the edges because these edges are not actually touching one another. So we want these to be complete opposites of each other. Make sure you've got a little bit of paper showing on all four sides. It doesn't have to be the same on all of them. In fact, it's kind of better if it's not. So once those two pieces are attached, you can either choose to adhere them flat on the page, which works really well if you're maybe mailing this because we are adding a couple dimensions already with other things and some jewels. But if you're not mailing this, or to be quite honest, I've never had any of these sent back to me, go ahead and add a layer of dimensionals on the back of this one. I don't know, I think maybe Canada Post is, I'm in Canada here, they're a little bit persnickety around the holidays maybe, I don't know, but in general I've never had any of these sent back saying improper postage. So there we go. Here is where we're at the moment. So those are the measurements I would have listed for you. Now what you do here is completely up to you. You can add any sort of decal or focal point that you want. Maybe you have a nice big sentiment that you want to just kind of put in here. Maybe you have some different shapes that you want to add. But what I've done is I've cut with my layering circles the third largest of the scallops and the coordinating flat circle. So I'm going to layer those two pieces up together and we're going to use them as the centerpiece for this card here. Okay, so this is one of those designer series papers. And we're just using it kind of because I like the background. Another option for you, if you don't want to use a designer paper, but you actually want to get stamping a little bit, is maybe you cut a decal out of white. That's where my green little stamp came from. You could always cut this decal out in white and fussy cut a sentiment. Here's that little piece of DSP I used for the scallop instead. So that could quite easily focus in there. Or what I'm showing you right now is you're layering up a plain piece of cardstock with some designer paper. And then I'm using the dies from the set to just cut myself a nice white silhouette leaf. So to attach this guy, if I had been smart, I would have done this first on adhesive paper and turned it into a sticker. But I was not, because I was kind of just playing. And then I found that I liked it. So I'm doing tiny, tiny dots of glue on those main sections of the leaf. It doesn't have to be all over. You just want them on the main parts. Okay, here we go. And that's my nice Tombow liquid glue, which I find I hardly ever run out of. So this just gets attached right in the middle of this section. Might need a couple seconds to kind of get your glue settled. If you want to move on, you can just throw an ink block or a stamping block on top and it'll make sure it stays flat for you. Maybe now you can go and run back to your cut and emboss machine and cut out a couple little leaves for your project. So I used Bermuda Bay and Pear Pizazz for these two leaves, just as again a complement to the colors that are already in my paper. So I could layer this up quite nicely now. So let's move this out of the way. Maybe I'll just do this for 1 second so you can see what it would look like. That would be the card if you decided to do stamping. And this is the card if you decide to do the decal. But I want to finish showing you how to do the decal. So here we go. These two little guys are kind of already in place. You just want them loosely on the left-hand side. And all I do is I take a piece of double-sided tape, or any tape, and cover the bottom stems. Your circle is going to cover that up, and nobody is going to know it's there. But it gives you the illusion that these are still kind of floating in midair, and you don't have to worry about putting any other sort of adhesive on them. because I find that's sometimes the most painful to make these 3D is where do I put the dimension? So we're going to leave that like so. This little decal, or alternatively this one, you can pop up on dimensionals. You know, because I have this sample, I'm just going to fake put this one on for the moment, show you how to finish. And then I'm actually going to complete it with the other one because that would be nicer for you to have two ideas. Okay, so here's my little decal. It looks adorable as it is, but I wanted a sentiment. So what I did was I went to our stamp set and I grabbed the happiest birthday wishes and a scrap piece of white paper. So with my evening evergreen ink, I'm just very gently tapping that on the pad because you can see it's really juicy. So anywhere on your scrap is good. And you are doing a little bit of fussy cutting, okay? I know most of us don't love this, but to be honest, I'm the worst fussy cutter in the world if you look closely. But really from a distance, it looks fine. Nobody's gonna care, or hopefully you guys don't care. Hopefully you're not looking at that and be like, why is she teaching us this? It doesn't look good at all. So just gently go around the shape of some of those letters. You can go straight across on areas like the birthday wishes, but you're just trying to bring this to life a tiny bit. Give yourself lots of white space in between. So I'm definitely somebody who loves having sentiments popped up, and I have to say, in our new catalog that comes out May 3rd, there is a whole stamp set and die set dedicated to sentiments like this with dies that cut them out. So unlike some of them where you have to like punch out a tag and then find a sentiment that fits it, this one cuts out the entire shape of that fun little sentiment. And I wish I could show it to you right now, but unfortunately it was not available as part of our pre-order, so I couldn't get it, but it's going to be, and I can't open up my catalog, but it's going to be one of the first things I do end up ordering. So here we go. Here's happiest birthday wishes. We're going to turn that over and pop some dimensionals up on it, just in the center, because you see this part does hang over the edge, so it doesn't really need a dimensional. So I'm just going to pop him, whoops, turn him over, up on my little flowers. Maybe move you over a tiny bit. There you go. All right. And then to finish off, I wanted to use some of my favorite gems that unfortunately are retiring, I think. Forget, where's my catalog? It's gone. I'm pretty sure these guys are retiring, but I think they might be on sale. So they're the Gilded gems, and I'm just going to add a couple of them to my project like this to kind of bring it to life. So there's option number one. Now let's pretend I decided to take that off and do stamping instead. There's option number two. So you can stamp and fussy cut something, or you can cut out another decal and fussy cut. It is totally up to you, and I think both options look absolutely wonderful. If you're dedicated, you could try coloring in the background here too, but you don't need to. It looks like it should, just a focus piece for you, and it's something that's really fun. So yeah, if you're interested, maybe you want to pull out a different bundle from your collection. So here's another idea. I use the exact same measurements you can see for all of my designer papers. I did use the larger circle, so it's the second largest in the set, but I was able to fit my Rainbow of Happiness rainbow on there and a little sentiment. And on this one, you can see the effect when you add that extra designer paper on the inside. So this DSP would be 1 inch by 3 3/4 and another little strip of gold foil in there. So there's an idea for you. But I love that if you have one set of measurements, you can easily pick and choose which bundle you want to use. You basically lay this out with whatever matching paper and whatever stamp set you have in your collection. So there you go. Before I let you go, I'm going to mention just one more time. I did get my new catalogs ordered, so they're on the way. I'm a Canadian demonstrator, so if you don't have a demonstrator or already, please reach out just with a message with your address, and I would love to get one of these new catalogs in the mail for you so that you have them for May 3rd when the catalog goes live. I'm also going to do some fun catalog launch things on May 3rd, so keep up with the announcements on my Facebook page, Lauren Scraplot, and I'll copy the videos onto here, but the games will be on my Facebook page. So make sure you join that page and turn on the notifications because you can participate in those games from anywhere in Canada. So yes, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed our project and I hope you are excited for all the new goodies in this catalog. I have a few more things I want to show you this month that are kind of retiring or some are carrying over, but it'll be great and I'm really excited to continue crafting with you all. Take care. Bye.